Hello, everybody. Welcome to IST 140. I'm, of course, Professor S, and this is today's lecture. So anyways, what we're doing this new chapter is on decisions, mainly if statements. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you an if statement and then also an if-else statement. So let's go into IntelliJ and take a look at that. All right, so I have a brand new project that I called week 4. And again, if you forget how to create the new projects, it's like file, new, project, and then you just follow the prompts and you get it. And then if you're making a new code, what you got to do is you go to SRC, you right click, and you do new Java class. I'm going to do week 4. Make sure it's upper camel case and enter. So that's what I did because it's week 4. All right, and now we need a main method. Awesome. And now I'm ready to begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do int, and I'm going to do num is, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do, I don't know, 91. And I'm going to do another thing where it's the string. You know what? I'm going to combine things and reiterate some things. So I'm going to create a scanner object where I'm going to do scanner, or look at me go, import java.util.scanner. And we'll use that in a bit. But before we do, let's do our if statement with our num. So I'm going to do if, we want to say if num is 91, then we want to say that it's 91. Now, so first of all, the idea is it's like when we a very popular thing in programming is having if-then statements. So if something is true, then do this thing. It allows, like, instead of just having line, there creates these circumstances when some things need to be different and some things need to be different. Like, for instance, if the number is 91, we want it to tell us that it's 91. Otherwise, we don't want it to do something at all, right? So when we run this, notice, first of all, maybe you see it already that it's not going to work. And the issue is right here on line 6. Notice the red squiggles. That means that something's up. And the idea is it's this equals. So when we use equals, it's Java's not the only one. There's a lot of other things. Even notice that it says replace equals with double equals. The idea is like in math, we assign values with equals and then we compare values with equals. And in programming, that's considered two different things. Like I said, Java is one of those languages that likes to know the difference. And so when we're comparing values, when we're saying things are equal, we do two equals. When we're assigning values, we just use one, right? And so notice when I run this, there we go. It says the number is 91. And if I were to change this to 92, notice that when I run it, it doesn't do anything, because the idea is if this is true, then do this. So it doesn't say then explicitly, but it implies it because this block of code, and it can be multiple blocks. So we could do system out print ln, and that is it. So once again, when I run it, it skips both of those lines because num is not 91. Notice when it is, it'll do both of those commands, both of those statements. If we want to say, like, look at it and say else, like if that's not true, then what we would do is like if it's not 91, then to say just like let us know that it's not. You don't always need an else statement, but sometimes when when this is false, you need it to do something else. Okay, and so notice like with the way this else works. Oh, there we go. Notice that it says the number is 91 and that is it. And it skips this line altogether because else is when this is false. This is the then, that's when it's true, and else is when it's false. Now, as I said, like if then is a very common thing in programming, but it's also common that the then isn't really explicitly stated. It's kind of implicit. Like we don't actually have to type out then. It's right here. It's kind of implied with this bracket. So with these braces, excuse me. This is what you should do if the statement is true. This is what you do if the statement is false in the else block. Okay. So notice like if I change this to 2. Notice that it says that the number is not 91 because it's 92, right? So something to kind of keep in mind too is that we can, like, this is kind of an expression, right? The idea is it's like it's either true or it's false, right? So in this case, num is equal to 91. That's true. If it's not equal to 91, then it's false. So what we can do is we can do, if we just do true, key to spell it right the first time. So notice we have true. So this is a Boolean value. When we run this, notice that it runs as if it's true. And likewise, if I say false, oops, it treats it as if it's false. Now, putting the literals in isn't really that helpful. I mean, you might as well just use this line because it will always be false because we program it to be that. But what if we want it to, like, if we use a variable, then we can have it change. So we can use Boolean variables, and we'll use more of these later, but I just thought I'd say num is 91. And I'm going to say this is true. And so then we're going to say num is 91. And so notice we have this value is being used. And so num is 91 is true. And so since this value is true, it'll do these lines. And then if I establish this to be false, there we go. Something else that we can do is we can use not equal or like other comparison. And so not equal is kind of hard. And so the way that we do that is num, and then we use exclamation point equals, and that's how we say not equal 91. And so what this will be true if num is not 91. It'll be false if it is 91. So notice in this case, it would be true because it's 92. And so since this statement is true here, this is what's going to be printed. Okay. Now, the other thing is something that I want to share you. And I'm doing this a different approach than what I have in the whatever it's called in the class today. But I'm going to use a scanner object. Okay. So I'm going to say Let's see. I want to read a word. Oh, how about this? I'll say enter in the word something. Okay. And so then we'll say word equals in dot next. And so it'll read that and it'll be something. And then I want to know, like, if it says something, then you did it. If not, you didn't. Or actually, we'll just have an indicator for it says something. Let's see. If word equals something, then there you go. So then it'll be the word you entered was something, right? Otherwise, it's going to just go on its business. So we're going to run it, enter in the word something. And so notice what happens when I press enter. It doesn't do anything. So if we want to say not equal, so it didn't, so let's kind of review what happened. So we entered in something here, and that's what we were looking for, but it says that it's not equal to it. It says that it's not the same. The thing is like when we're comparing strings, we don't want to use these things because it gets weird. And so like a further thing of showing it being weird is like, let me kind of get this out. All right, so notice that I'm saving something for the word, and then notice I'm comparing word with something, and notice this time it's saying that it is. Comparing the strings, and it is. So the idea is like sometimes with strings, it doesn't work. Now, there's one other example that I kind of want to say or show. We'll do sum, and then I want to do just the sum right here, just sum here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can do a substring of that from 0 to, was it 4? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, stop at T. And so sum, this is going to be just sum. And so then when we run this, notice the condition was false, even though they both say sum. And if you don't believe me, let me show you the... And then here, I'll just copy this over so you can kind of see what it is. Okay. And then when I run it, notice it like this again is false. So it skips this. It doesn't say the word you entered was something. It says, or it says the word was some. So it skips this and goes to this line and said the word was some compared to some. So notice that they're both saying some, but it's saying that they're not equal. Okay. So once again, don't use the equal sign to compare strings. Okay. Don't use the don't equals to compare strings. We have something else that we will talk about later. But anyways, let's go back into the slides, and we'll finish up talking about the if statements. All right. So what we are talking about, well, now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about like how things work. So the idea is like, here's a scenario. Say you're programming a portion of a game where you're doing it for Zelda, and you have Link, who's the little sprite at the top, um, and when he gets to the rupee, which is the currency in the game, you get that many rupees. So the idea is like when he's there, or when he's not on the rupee, he shouldn't get it. But when he is on the rupee, he should get the amount, right? So like a very basic flow chart is like if it's on the same location as the rupee, it's either true or false, right? He's either on the rupee or he's not, right? And so if he is on the rupee, then he should get 10 rupees because this one gets 10 because it's a yellow one. But otherwise, he shouldn't. So notice like when it's false, nothing happens. And when it's true, 10 rupees. And so the idea is like we just did that basic if statement that we just saw on IntelliJ. The else statement is when the value is false, when we want something to happen, right? So let's say you're trying to buy a quiver of arrows, and let's say you don't have 10 rupees. So we test at the top, is there 10 rupees? False. Then you get a message you don't have enough to do this, and you move on. Or if you do have it, then it will add 10 arrows to your quiver, and it will subtract 10 rupees because it's not for free. So it would like adjust those values of you and then move on. But then the idea is like each one of these lines is kind of dependent upon something happening, right? It's not just like, so far what we've done is there's a line of code, then a line of code, then a line of code. This asks, well, what if this condition is met or this condition is not met? And that's the whole fun thing about if statements. So the book, the way they use if statements is like this, where you have the if statement with the condition, and then on the next line you have the open braces, and then the indentation of the statements, and then the next line is the final line is the closing of the braces. And then I like to have the open braces on the same line as the if statement. You do whatever makes sense to you. I'm just saying like that's the difference between me and the textbook, is that we have those two differences. As far as the else is concerned, this is how the book represents it. I personally think that my way of having the else and the open value on the same line as where it closes kind of signifies that it kind of makes it clear as to which if it is tied to. So if you have nested statements, which will make sense later because we're not going over that in this class, I feel like it's easier to follow. But again, you do you. The one thing that is not you that you should do is be careful how semicolons are used. See, the thing is like there is a syntax that allows the semicolon on the same line as the if statement. And when you do that, it messes things up, right? So that's why one of the reasons why I like to put the open braces, so then I don't think to put that semicolon down, because what that kind of ends up doing is doing a single line if statement, and I don't want you to do that. Instead, I want you to always do multiple lines, even if you have like one line for the statement. So like for instance, in the walkthrough that I just did, I had a print line that was just one line, right? And so I could have all put the if and the condition and that statement all on the same line, but I don't want you to. I want you to do like what I did on the walkthrough and put them on multiple lines. Okay. In other words, you shouldn't use the semicolon for an if statement ever. That's really the thing to walk away with. Don't use a semicolon for the if statement, and you're fine. Okay. In the then statements where it says the statements part, the indentation part, those should have semicolons. But on the same line as the if statement, there should not be a semicolon. Okay. All right. So anyways, with the conditions, remember how we were talking about kind of expressions. Here are some ways that you could do greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, equal, and not equal. Okay. So if you put in there this, where you have 3 is less than or equal to 4, then it would say true, because 3 is less than 4. So It's less than or equal to 4. What about this? 3 equals less than 4. Well, it less than or equal to is not the same thing as equal or less. So this actually isn't something that the Java recognizes, so it'll throw an error. We have 3 is greater than 4. That's not true, so it will be determine that to be false. For 3 equals 5 minus 2, now 5 minus 2 is equal to 3, and 3 equals 3. But notice that we only have one equal sign, so we're assigning the value of 3 to 3. Java gets confused by this and will throw an error. This is what we're kind of looking to do, because remember, double equals is a comparison. Single equals is assigning. So here we're comparing 3 with the value of that expression, and this would be true, right? Here we have 10 is greater than 5, but the 10 is in quotes, so that means it's a string, and so it's not really 10 as a like Java doesn't look at it as a number, it thinks of it more like a word. And so it's saying, is this word greater than 5? And so Java gets confused and it will say error. Also, like I kind of pointed out before, when we did substring, notice that the substring, like this substrings of subtract, would get a like it is that both of them are sub. But remember, when we're comparing strings, we don't want to use equals, right? In fact, any one of these, we don't really want to use the not equals, the less than. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but any one of these Java conditions that I have on this page, we don't want to use for strings because strings are different. So this would actually end up being false. It doesn't throw an error, which kind of makes it even that much more confusing, which is why, like, I'm not saying don't use these things because they don't, because they throw errors. I'm saying don't use them because you're not going to get the results that you want, right? This is actually the syntax for comparing that they're equals, and we'll talk about this later, and this one would return true. Okay. Anyways, I think that's enough for your practice problems today. Good luck with them. I will see you all Wednesday. Bye. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please press the like button below. It lets me know I'm doing something right. If you have any questions about any of the content, please send a message to both me and the rest of the teaching team in Canvas, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Don't send it through normal email. You will not get as fast response. If you have any suggestions for how I can make these videos better, please leave in the comments below. Don't forget to roundhouse kick the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified for the next video. Anyways, I think that's good for now. See y'all later. Bye.